Hi, I'm Aaliyah Woods, co-founder of CommonWealth Urban Farms. This is our beginning gardener video series designed to help you have a successful garden even if you've never planted a seed in your life. Today's topic is vertical gardening. We're going to talk about trellising today. First, let's look at some of our plants that we already have in the garden. The shishito peppers, man, they're just producing like crazy. So I didn't get over here this week to harvest, and a lot of them have turned red. Normally, shishitos are harvested green, but I had a bunch of red ones last week, and we grilled them. We grilled both the green and the red ones, and the red ones were fantastic. Some of the other varieties of shishitos that I've grown aren't so good when they're red. They get kind of thin-walled. This variety is called Mellow Star from Johnny's, and it's really a fantastic variety of shishito. I recommend it. The red ones, when they were grilled, were just like the green ones, only a little bit sweeter. Really good. So we're going to harvest these, and we'll go ahead and harvest some of the green ones to grill them tonight. Basil, beautiful. The chard is getting eaten up. But I'll tell you what, when it comes to chard, I don't harvest it in the summer anyways because it's kind of bitter in hot weather. So I'm not worried about this. We're going to cut it back at the end of the summer, let it regrow fresh leaves once it cools down a little bit, and those will be the leaves that we'll eat. So if we have bug problems then, we'll deal with it then, but for now, it's fine. And a little bit of parsley here. Now I want to show you the microgreens from last week. So we had some successes and some failures. This is the arugula that we planted. It looks great. I think I planted that a little too thick, but it's fine. We can pull it out at this stage. It's fine to eat at this stage. Just eat the green leaves and the top of the stems, or you can let it get a little bit bigger. So right now what we have are just the first two leaves. These are not the true leaves. So on Brassicas mustard family in general, the first two leaves that come out, the cotyledon, are kind of heart-shaped. And then the next two leaves that come out show the true shape of the leaf for that plant. So we can harvest them at this stage, or we can wait until they get to be macro greens and harvest them then. These are the radishes, so you can see the leaves on those are a little bit bigger. Again, because they're in the same family, they have that heart-shaped leaf. I didn't get great germination on the radishes. It was old seed, so we got some. Radishes will get a little more bitter as they get bigger, so they actually are better to harvest at this stage. Don't wait until they get their true leaves showing. And then this is the Tokyo Becana, the mild green that we can grow in the summertime, and apparently this really was old seed, and we got terrible germination on that, so much for that one. But we did great on the arugula. Here's the little broccoli seedlings that we started 2 weeks ago. So we have Happy Rich and Green Magic, two different kinds of broccoli. The Green Magic is the regular heading broccoli, and the Happy Rich is mini broccoli or sprouting broccoli. So we'll harvest that basically like what we get are like the side shoots on a regular broccoli plant, but they're much sweeter. They're a really fantastic variety of broccoli. So we planted these 2 weeks ago, the biggest ones you can see, but then I left them inside for too long. They got really leggy, brought them outside, left them in the sun too long, and they toppled over and burned up in the hot sun that we were having that week. This past week was much milder, really nice break from the usual Oklahoma summer weather. So these seedlings are just getting going, the new ones that I planted, but they're coming along well. And here's a plant of cauliflower that I started. So I started this on July 22nd, and today is the 25th, I think it is, or 26th. So it's only been 3 or 4 days, and you can see they're already popping up. This is really a great seed, very good germination. So this is a variety of cauliflower called Snow Crown. I love planting cauliflower in the fall. Usually we think of cauliflower and broccoli as plants that we plant in the spring. The problem with that is that both broccoli and cauliflower like warm soil temperatures to germinate, but they like cool weather for actually growing. And by the time they head up and we get the broccoli heads or the cauliflower heads, they really don't like hot weather. But when we plant them in the spring, say we plant them in the early March, the transplants, then they need about 2 months before they mature. So they're going to be maturing in early May, which is right when we start getting hot in Oklahoma. And so the weather is working against us as far as getting good quality broccoli and cauliflower. In the fall, it's just the opposite. The weather is working in our favor. We're starting the seedlings in July when the soil is definitely warm, or in our plug trays when it's warm conditions. And as they grow, we start getting cooler weather. So by the time we transplant these in mid-August, give them a few more weeks, we'll be into September and it will be cooling down. By the time these plants are ready to actually harvest, which will be in October, we generally have nice cool weather, and so the plants are really happy and we tend to get good quality heads from them. But it does mean that we have to start them in July, start the seeds in July. Otherwise, they won't be mature and ready to harvest until November or later, and then we have freezing weather and it kills the plants. Okay, now let's talk about vertical gardening. So there's a lot of plants that will grow up, and it gives us more room in the garden if we let them grow up instead of grow out. And a lot of them are happier growing up than out and easier to harvest. So yard-long beans are definitely a vine that needs something to grow on. Here we've got a really simple system where I'm just using twine. These are our yard-long beans right down here. Last year we already put eye hooks in the top of the porch here because we did this system last year. It worked really well. So I got a big ball of twine from the hardware store, put it through the eye hook, and now I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to get quite a bit of this. Now I need to secure it at the base. So you can use the earth staples, those big staples. You can just use a brick, anything you want that will just hold it in place. So I'm going to put that right there. All right, now I'll take the other end of this twine. And put it through the next eye hook. And we'll just keep going like that all along the porch. We've got both yard-longs planted here, and then there's morning glories on the other half of the porch, which are a prolific climber as well. This will do several things. One, it will give support to the plants. It will make it easier to harvest because they're growing up and we can just pick them like that instead of on the ground and tangled up. And it will also provide shade for this western exposure on the porch. Really easy to do. Now let's go over to our farm and I'll show you some other methods of trellising. Alright, so here's another method for trellising yard-longs and other vining crops. We used these cattle panels and made them into arches, just bent them into arches. The cattle panels are 4 foot by 16 feet in length. When we curve them into an arch, then that makes them an arch that's just about the right height for the vines to grow on and still be able to reach up and harvest. We hold them in place on the corners with pieces of rebar. That keeps them under tension and keeps the sides from popping out. Very easy, just a piece of rebar on each side, and that's all it takes. So now the yard-longs can grow to their heart's content. Most of the beans end up falling inside, which makes them really easy to harvest because they're just right here, hanging down. We grow the red yard-long beans, so that makes it easy to spot them. And we're in shade while we're harvesting, which is really nice on a hot summer day. We were so happy with the arch system of growing the yard-longs that this year we decided to try that for cucumbers too. So our first cucumbers were on the straight trellises, but our second batch we're trying on these arches. And you can see it's a second planting, so the plants are not as big. They haven't completely covered the arches yet, but they will. And we're getting cucumber production already. Here's another set of yard-long bean arches that we did. You don't have to use cattle panels though. You can use all sorts of other kinds of fencing. Here's an example of something we just had on hand. This works too. It's just not as tall, and the yard-longs are really vigorous, so they like the additional height. The other thing I like about cattle panels is they have a wide enough space you can reach your hand through them. So if you need to grab something on the other side, it makes it easier. Here we use a couple cattle panels for the whole row as just straight panels, and we're growing the Armenian cucumbers on these. The Armenians do great on this system. You can see how lush the foliage is, and we're getting all these beautiful cucumbers off of it, and it allows them to hang down straight, so we get really good quality fruit too. I mentioned that this is our second planting of cucumbers. We do succession plant on many vegetables, cucumbers included. So for most vegetables, they will reach a peak in their production, after which they'll continue to produce, but not as much. So for us on the farm, where we're trying to get the best production possible, it really pays off to succession plant. So by the time the first row of cucumbers is kind of playing out, the second set of cucumbers is coming along and hitting peak production. You can do this in a home garden too, just thinking in a more continuous way instead of like, oh, you plant everything in the spring and then that's it for the garden. We're going to do one last succession planting of cucumbers, planting them right now. These are Armenian cucumbers again, but you could plant Diva or Market More, two other varieties that are great for Oklahoma conditions. So I've got a little 6-pack here. I'm going to drop a couple seeds in each one. Cucumbers will take about 2 months from seed to the beginning of harvest. Now we're planting in late July, so they'll be growing in basically August and September. And our days are getting shorter and shorter during that period. So when the seed package says 57 days from seed to harvest, add a few days to that as we get declining day length. So these are going to be cucumbers for October harvest, our final harvest for the season. And I'm just going to gently cover these up. Then I will label them and bottom water them, and we'll be good to go. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next week.